Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans, it's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans and one chaos coordinator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, we are going to let our guests introduce themselves. We're going to go in alphabetical order because grunts know the alphabet. Mr. David Hensley.
Hey, I'm David Hensley. I write military sci-fi, post-apocalyptic sci-fi, and a little bit of urban fantasy for Three Ravens and Canon Publishing. Happy to be here.
Next, we have Mr. John Epple, otherwise known as the Evil Ginger.
How you doing, everybody? I'm John Epple. I draw comics, income. I've done Exodus Z, Mississippi Zombie 2. We just had one come out called Phantasmagoria, which is a horror anthology. And I'm currently working on a Secret Squirrel 90s project that I'm on page 14 inking. So it's coming along nicely.
Disclosed G.I. Joe-esque comic with yours truly.
Yes.
Nice. Next, we have Mr. Reginald Lewis, sometimes known as Reggie.
Hey, what's up? I write fantasy, and yeah, that's about it. Sci-fi too. I did do an anthology with JR. That was pretty dope.
I liked your story.
Thanks for having me.
All right, next we have Mr. Rick Partlow.
I'm Rick Partlow. I'm veteran of the U.S. Army. I've written 76 science fiction novels, military science fiction, and space opera. The most significant of which are the Drop Trooper series and Taken to the Stars.
Because he doesn't sleep. Who needs sleep? And last, but certainly not least, we have Mr. Shane Gries.
Yeah, hey all. I'm a retired Army guy, getting used to this new veteran status. Love it. I write military science fiction. Recently, I've been writing the zombie apocalypse stuff, the U.S. Army against zombies. It's awesome, but having a lot of fun and glad to be here.
All right, and the next part of the introduction, dear listener, dear viewer at home, is how we first met them. So we all actually met at a drunk tank. I mean, at the VFW. We were just hanging out.
Same.
Same. I mean, the discount beer. You can't go wrong. Wait, do they still do that, or am I showing my age?
$3 drafts.
All right. So since now the religion questions, everyone here's been on recently and answered the current questions except for Reggie. So Reggie, are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. Star Wars, Star Trek, or Firefly?
Star Wars, easy. I mean, actually, you know what? Early Star Wars, not current Star Wars.
Excellent answer. You say early Star Wars. There were 3 movies and a couple of books. I mean, I really wish they'd write more, but sadly,
I don't know anymore.
Any of the Timothy Zahn Star Wars books were awesome.
Oh yeah, the Thrawn stuff that he did.
Those are easily canon.
And the Brian Daly Han Solo books were incredible too.
Those were
Michael
cool too.
Oh, I read one of those. Those were good.
Yeah.
You got when you say Star Wars
from Boba Fett from those.
When you say that you like Star Wars, the older stuff, did you read the books too?
I read 3 books. One of them that he just talked about. David just talked about. Actually, you know what? Let me strike that back. Let me change my answer. Can I go with Warhammer 40K?
Sure.
Goddamn heretics.
I said Farscape just to be an ass.
I love Warhammer 40K.
So for the Star Wars stuff though, the Republic Commando series was pretty good, and Rogue Squadron back in the day. You can't go wrong with those. But Disney says they're not canon anymore, and David Hensley is just telling us in the chat that it's blood for the blood god.
Hey, if Warhammer 40K is good enough for Henry Cavill, it's good enough for us, right?
Listen, I've read so much of those Horus Heresy books. I love them. I've played almost all the games. Yeah, blood for the blood god.
Okay. All right. And because we are polytheistic here at the Blasters and Blades podcast, Game of Thrones, The Wheel of Time, or Chronicles of Narnia?
I'm going to go with Game of Thrones. Only because the show up until the last 2 seasons was so good. So I'm going with Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
Because if we're talking books, you couldn't go with Game of Thrones because it's not finished.
Right.
Yeah, there's that funny tweet that Larry Correa, who's like, I just finished a series. See, it's not that hard, George, when he tweeted him. I was like, ooh, shots fired.
The dedication
tagged
page.
too. He tagged his on X.
Did he? I only saw the screenshot that the authors are all sharing around, so I didn't.
Hey, JR, I've written over 70 books since he last finished a book.
Well, I mean, isn't he writing new content in the form of?
It's not that deep.
Isn't he writing like new content in the form of the Game of Thrones sequels, though, or prequels? I guess whatever series.
I don't know.
I think he's writing
I
that.
don't think he's writing at all.
Doing more
I don't think he's
tweets
writing at
than
all.
anything,
Shit.
He's talked about writing stuff.
He's,
Okay,
I think
go.
he's reading stuff more than he's writing stuff.
All right, and we got two more before we can let Reggie off the hot seat. So one of the crying shames of adulthood is we stop asking each other the important questions. We are bringing this back. Are you ready, Reggie?
I'm ready.
What is your favorite dinosaur?
Velociraptor, easy.
Okay.
Wait, which
okay.
one?
Any dinosaur that can open a door, what are you going to do against that?
But the real ones are tiny. They're like the size of a chicken.
Yeah, but that's
those are
not
the actual
fun.
velociraptors.
Realism
Then you
isn't
have
fun.
the
It's
Utah
about the
raptor,
movie.
which is the size of the ones in the movies.
The Deinonychus is the size of the ones in the movies, too.
Deinonychus.
I just want to ride.
Deinonychus or Deinonychus. I don't know how you pronounce it, honestly.
I don't know either. Latin's hard.
I like
wanna
Diplodocus.
ride one.
It's fun to say.
We like the funny sounding words. Shane, you're showing yourself. We all know now that you were an infantry officer. You weren't one of them smart ones.
That's right. Definitely not.
All
one of
right.
those.
A fellow ring knocker.
No.
Last but certainly not least, Reggie, because we are civilized Bastion and Blades podcast, we are no longer knuckle dragging troglodytes. Coffee or tea, and how do you take it?
Coffee. Coffee black.
Like your soul.
Yep.
Like his complexion.
Grimdark. Blood.
I wouldn't go there.
That's how I said it. Like, hey, how do you like your coffee, Nick? I'm like my men, black and strong.
Yeah.
All right, so
Amen,
now that we got. Oh, Nick.
I was the
We can
token
dress
white guy in
now.
my
We can't
platoon,
make you
Nick.
politically correct.
All right.
All right, so
No.
now that
You
I've
expected
got everyone-
politically correct with this crowd?
Dark and
No,
bitter.
not so I thought we'd give everyone a chance to talk a little bit about their service because it's germane to the conversation. So we're going to start with.
What do the Germans have to do with it?
I heard you were in the Navy.
Ooh.
Okay, if you're listening, he's making faces at me. Probably Google eyes. You know, it's love. What are you going to do?
Put you
So,
on a-
so Nick, what'd you do in the Army?
What I do in the Army? I was in the infantry. I was a grunt. I started off with my beloved 2nd Ranger Battalion. Had a catastrophic jump failure that required me to no longer jump out of a perfect good aircraft.
They were never perfectly good.
They were good
No,
enough.
they're works of art. Those airplanes are works of art.
You say catastrophic.
Yeah, I shattered my entire left leg. Like hardware had to be put in, so I'm like 25% Wolverine right now.
You're bionic?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say bionic. I don't think they put actually any mechanics in there. They just put steel in me.
They didn't give you the claws?
No, I totally got cheated because I didn't break anything up here. It was
This
all
the
up
Army.
here.
They're not going to give
It
us
was
anything
the leg.
useful.
That and it was two captains that were promoted to captain right out of med school because that's what they do. They were like, "Oh, how should we do this?" First they drugged me up, filled me all kinds of the good feeling drugs, and they're like, "Hey man, we got like 2 options for you. We can put you in a cast up to your junk for 18 months, or we can go in there and put a steel rod in your leg, and you'll be jumping in 6." And I'm like, I'm high as shit. I'm 18 years old. And I'm like, yeah, put the rod in, man. Let's do this. Let's fucking go.
Okay. And we've talked about this a little bit on the show, and you can reference, I think it's episode 1 where we interviewed you. But we worked with each other in Iraq, so he did some time with the crazy cats over there in Mesopotamia.
I put JR in a baited ambush, and he survived.
Yeah, they didn't tell us it was walking into a damn ambush. They're like, "Oh, it's fine. The roads are clear. Nothing to see here."
Security clearance.
It'll be fine.
Builds character.
All that
That's
stuff.
some Spooky boys, they wanted to do their shit. There was a fucking ODA involved, so everything worked out fine.
So when you guys were there and you saw us calling air support, and the helicopters just kind of hovered like a bunch of pansies, and they're like, "We can't identify where the bad guys are." Were you cussing them out like we were?
No, we were taking direct sniper shots. So we waved off. We got our JTAC on board. It's like, yeah, anything they're saying, disregard. We got this.
Well, we had this one little short guy from Boston. He was like all muscle, no brains. He got the bright idea that if we started shooting at the helicopter, they'd know there was a firefight, and we had to yank him out of the turret because, like, yeah, that might make them think we're the bad guys. Let's not do that.
Yeah,
but that was an interesting report I had to write.
To irritate the Apache gunship. They hate that.
They're just likely to shoot you by accident anyway. So
yeah,
right. Like
it wouldn't be the first time.
A guy in a happy trigger are pretty hot.
A friend of mine was in one of those Hiluxes over there in Iraq with some fellas, who grew their beards, and at night, and they had one of those, those signaling infrared beacons in the back.
Yeah.
Blackhawks still put a 50 caliber round right through their bed.
Oops.
Yeah, that tracks.
The worst part was as a young E5 sergeant standing before the brigade commander and explaining why my guy thought it would be a good idea to shoot at one of our own helicopters. That was fun.
You can tap dance.
And now you know why I never made staff sergeant.
Oh,
they tore the packet up.
Major.
But they were really respectful about it. They made me tear my own packet up. How nice was that? But yeah, that's how Nick and I met, and we found out when we were podcasting that, holy crap, our stories overlapped. So that was kind of cool.
Like, holy shit, that was you. And he's like, holy shit, that was you. And I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, so,
man. Took me years to tell him, like, yeah, that was a baited ambush. You shouldn't have been there. I'm sorry.
So I'll go next since I was already talking. I did 8.5 years in the Army as light infantry, and then 2 years of that in Iraq running gun trucks. Because, fun people charge at the bad guys when everyone else gets to go somewhere safe.
I got to get you that T-shirt, JR, that says I run towards gunfire.
I definitely need that. My favorite was the one the EOD guy said. It said, if you see me running, try to catch up.
I have one of those, but it's in German on the back.
Your JR's T-shirt would say, I fast walk towards gunfire now, wouldn't it?
No, I actually, this is going to be really, really insensitive, but now that I gained the weight that I'm working to losing again, I do have a shirt that says, I beat anorexia.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
I need a shirt that
You
says
gotta laugh at
towards gunfire after the stroke, because I ain't running towards shit.
That's why you got trigger finger. It still works. You don't need to run anywhere. All right, next, Dave, can you introduce what you did in the military?
Yeah, I did 20 years in the United States Navy as an aviation structural mechanic, which is Navy code for a guy who fixes everything but engines and electrical systems.
Sheet metal.
Yep, sheet metal, hydraulics, flight control systems, rotor blades, fiberglass.
Jesus Christ, jack of all trades.
If it didn't burn fuel or pump electrons through it, it was our responsibility for the most part.
So is it true what they say about helicopters? They just decide not to crash just by miracles and such?
Yeah, it's several thousand components flying in loose formation, man. It's, I mean, they obey the laws of physics, but it doesn't really look like it.
It's more of a
Like a
guideline.
Yeah, Bumblebee doesn't obey the law of physics. It still frickin' flies.
All right, Rick, you're next.
I was in the infantry, both in the National Guard and then in active duty. I was a platoon leader of the 25th Infantry Division, and
Tropical lightning.
tropical lightning. Got to do a bunch of tactical maneuvers around Central Florida and the island of Oahu, and never went anywhere else.
That sounds like the Army. They never send you anywhere cool. All right, next we have Mr. Shane Gries. Can you talk a little bit more about what you did?
Sure. I did 4.5 years enlisted in the Army National Guard. I was a combat photographer because I saw the movie Full Metal Jacket, and I thought that would be cool.
Cool.
And then went to ROTC and got commissioned as an infantry officer, where I served for the next 30 years on active duty. Spent 18 of those years stationed overseas, 3 in Germany, 9 in Korea, 1 in Afghanistan, 5.5 in Australia. My claim to fame is when I went to Ranger School, I was the second oldest and highest ranking student in the entire Ranger class. I had my 33rd birthday jumping into Florida phase. And
Cool.
then my last job, I worked for the ambassador down at the U.S. Embassy in Australia, Her Excellency Caroline Kennedy. And it was a really great experience. And
I thought Excellency was for like queens and stuff.
Ambassadors too.
I thought your claim to fame was being name checked in a John Ringo book.
Well, there's that. I got all kinds of weird stories.
So I got to know how cool you were when you were enlisted. Did you qualify after your 4 years for the Good Conduct Ribbon?
Oh, I don't have one of those.
Okay.
I got a rack of stuff about this high. I don't have one of those.
Okay, so you partied a little bit on your enlisted days. Okay. I can dig it. All right. The Evil Ginger.
Yes. I'm a glutton for punishment. So I'm dual service. I did my first 4 years as a Marine, and then I did the rest of my time as a paratrooper.
Attaboy.
No,
What'd you do in the Marine Corps?
stuff.
Okay.
Marine Corps stuff, sir.
So were you cozying up to those Navy bubbas when you were on your little long love cruises?
No, we were in the men's department of the Navy.
But you had your name tag on your right butt cheek on your
I
pants.
had no choice in that matter.
That's
I mean, it's only polite to call their name.
Navy guys had to know. Navy guys had to know what to call you.
It's true.
Keep it too
Good
obvious.
enough for me.
Oh.
Sweetheart works.
We need that joke in our book, David. Write that down to remember for later.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, put it in the group chat.
So, Reginald, what about yourself?
Let's see. I'm still in, actually. I got 2 years left. I'm in the Air Force. Let's see. I did 7 years as 6 years as a mechanic on the C-17. I was in Charleston. Then I became an investigator, and I went to a terrible place called Columbus, Mississippi. But then I went to the best place in the world, which is Guam. I was there for like 4 years, I think, 4 or 5 years. Amazing place. And from there, then I went to Georgia, Warner Robins, Georgia. If you any of you guys know where that's at.
Driven by that many times. Driven by that many times.
Yep, the plane that was there actually just retired in 23, and now I'm in Washington. I'm in McCord Air Force Base, which is
Fort Lewis, baby. Point Force Base,
Yeah.
McCord.
Yeah,
So I do
it's not bad out here. Let's see. My claim to fame is doing a whole bunch of cool stuff with a bunch of 3-letter agencies that I can hopefully
IRS?
talk about when I'm 65. Yes, actually, I did do one thing with the IRS.
Do you go to
Bend
Seattle
over and grab your
Yeah.
ankles.
No, it was some.
Speaking of the name
doing
tag
some,
on the right butt cheek.
Is that still
Someone was
around?
doing something with some fraud.
So, because it's silly season with the politics, and it just ended when this episode airs on Veterans Day. I have to know, since you mentioned Guam, we do remember not too long ago, Georgia Representative Hank Johnson did ask if Guam would tip over. So I have to know, when you landed, did it tip? Are we good?
I can still hear.
Hey,
Honestly,
listen,
it's not tip over.
it's small enough. It probably would have. It's small enough. I think it's 8 miles wide and like 20 or 30 miles long or something like that.
Yeah. It's like a large
Right.
Dorito.
It is, but listen, it is. The food there is amazing.
That's what I've heard.
Okay, the people there are amazing.
Yeah.
The water is bath water year round. Like the flights to Australia are super cheap. Flights to Japan super cheap. Philippines, Bali, everything is super cheap. Like the only bad thing about that place is the corruption. The corruption is off the wall.
What about storms? You ever get any big storms?
Yes, I was there for Typhoon Dolphin when it just completely destroyed everything.
Yeah, man.
And just just because that was a Democrat that said that, I want to be bipartisan because it is not the stupidest thing I've heard from our government. I was in the middle of a firefight the day George W. Bush said the ground war in Iraq was over. So,
And what the F are we doing?
right? I'm like, somebody get the memo to these guys.
Where I heard the same shit. I'm like, then what today doesn't make sense. I'm in ground fighting.
It's okay, JR, because there are no troops in harm's way anywhere in the world. That's what I heard.
Yeah. hey, JR, did you tell the people that were shooting at you, like, hey, hold on, this is over. What are we doing?
Well, I think later in the military, I could have used my stress card to tell them to chill out. But I mean, we were.
Yeah, sure.
Did you have a stress card?
No, that came after.
No, that came after I was done.
Much later.
Yeah, that was, and it didn't make it past boot camp because the minute those guys got to their line units, their sergeants are like, yeah, screw that shit.
Yeah, it was pretty.
I'm sure they said a lot more than that.
I mean, we got to keep the podcast family friendly, so I'm trying not to talk like we might be embarrassed.
For that, but
wait, I got
probably. So, like, one of the things we wanted to talk about when we brought this episode up, because obviously it's airing on, it's airing on Veterans Day, is how veterans are kind of portrayed in fiction, because we all are creatives here. We all write, or some of you draw and tell your stories with pictures.
Dick.
Yeah, this is true. You've written. You've got a story credit over there for a short story. For 2 of them.
Technically, I'm writing the book that I'm drawing too. My 90s book I told you about.
Right.
I'm writing it as well.
Wow.
Okay. Well, there you go. But so, what do you guys think when you look at how military people are portrayed in fiction, and kind of what are your thoughts as a jumping off point?
Well, they think we're all broken. And,
yeah, let's say that.
Yeah.
Like we're the focus of their pity or something.
Yeah, I don't like that.
And it really pisses me off when I see that.
Yeah,
I would say that started back right after Vietnam.
Sure.
Yeah, that or we're all like Rambo or something.
Yep. It's no in between. We're either Rambo or we're just like typing on a computer. There's like no in between.
Yeah.
And the other part of that is most of them, when they write about it, unless they don't understand the concept of a tooth to tail ratio, that for every, combat force in the field, there's X number of people in the rear supporting them. So like, oh, you went to X combat zone. You must have been in the thick of it. I'm like, no, they were just cooking bacon in the back, whatever.
Everybody was a freaking operator, right? Like everybody was a tier 1 door kicker.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's like, okay. There's a lot of people in the military, and there's different shades of special operations, and then there's combat arms, and then, like you said, tooth to tail. I mean, there's a whole lot of us out there everybody's doing something important. Every single person's doing something.
I started my military career being a tier 2. Well, now I guess they call them operators, but we just said we were rangers.
Yep.
So like we're tier 2, like we're the security guards for tier 1 entities.
Let's be real. You joined for the Ranger panties, didn't you?
Oh yeah, because my legs are freaking stunning, dude. And I was running 7 miles a day. My ass was.
So you'll get a kick out of this. The Marines wear shorts similar to the Ranger panties, and we were on TQ, which had a Marine component there, and they were doing PT in formation, full battle rattle. And so Whitey, the guy that was stupid enough to shoot at the helicopter, starts jogging around their formation. Who wears short shorts? Queers wear shorts. Short is how the fight started. And then before you know it,
cut the crime fighters out of them.
Like that was a fun fight. I did.
Hanging out of our shorts.
I did break my nose that one, but I dislocated his shoulder. So, I mean, I consider that a draw.
To be fair to the depictions of military people in fiction, most of the time they're trying to make the story interesting. So having somebody who was actually like, a chef or a cook, sorry. I was thinking Air Force for a second.
5 stars.
Somebody who's a cook or a mechanic is not going to be like the most interesting story for fiction unless it's romance, maybe. I don't know.
Unless it does it all.
Movie.
Yes, Seagal. That's a good point, Shane. He was.
Exactly Navy SEAL.
Actually, you know what? I think my favorite depiction in fiction as far as military goes is I don't know if you guys have seen the earlier Transformer movies. So Tyrese was I think it was
Did see
the
the
first
movie.
Transformer movie.
Yeah.
He was in E5, and then the next one, he was in E9.
Like, damn, dude,
I've
that
noticed
battle
that too. I
really
was like,
promoted
what the
his ass
fuck?
without time
Check
and
that.
service and time and grade.
Yeah, I think only a year. It was a year span between the first two or the two
Hey,
movies.
Well,
saving the
maybe
world
maybe
while
he'd been
we race,
busted
man.
from E8 and they just took all that away after the first movie.
Or
Possible.
maybe his knee pad game was strong and he earned that promotion. You never
Yeah,
know.
but he did save the world with a whole bunch of alien robots.
Weren't they Air Force?
The movie Battleship, where they had the wounded veteran in there.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't see that one.
God,
And
what
that
is his
prosthetic?
name? He's a retired 06.
Okay.
But, yeah, he lost
Yeah, he's
both his
legit.
legs in combat,
Yeah.
and then they put him in the movie Battleship, which was
I
cool.
remember him. The big cute hulking black guy
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
the
yeah.
anger
He got
issue.
in Afghanistan, I think. Lost
Yeah.
his legs from the knee down.
That was pretty neat, but not that he lost his leg, but that he put him in a movie. But
Yeah.
The Battleship
that
had
part.
that funny scene where the one cocky Navy, I think it was an ensign, was like, "I see Sun Tzu" when he does this thing, and the Chinese officer's like, "That's not what that meant."
It's like, yeah, no, that went right over your head, sir.
Yeah, that's the one thing though that they do as far as like the representation. I noticed some of it is cyclical. Like anything that was written before Vietnam, after World War II, it was all they were all heroes kicking in doors with Kelly's Heroes or Patton's Army or whatever. After Vietnam, you started to see more of they're crazy and broken, and then now it's kind of a combination of the two extremes.
But now it's that they're broken, but they're also all ultimate badasses somehow too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're victims of the system because they got to
That's
smash the government.
we
And
all got to be
Oh yeah,
victims.
you got like Terminal List. That's what that whole movie was about.
In book.
it was a
I
book.
think they're all John Cena.
Yeah.
So we're
So
not all broken. We're all broken, but like there's
Hey, I'm
levels
not-
of being broken. Like
Yeah,
either
your
physically or
mileage will
mentally.
vary.
Yeah.
well, you've got that iconic picture. It's like they say being in the military doesn't makes you age faster. I don't feel a day over 21, and it's like this 70-year-old dude is the picture for the meme. Like there's something to the jokes, at least physically. It's hard on the
My
body.
back is at least 70 years old. My back and my hip.
My knee is 70.
My knees.
So when I went to the VA one time to see an internal specialist about something because we were getting the shrapnel removed, and my stepdad was driving me, and they're like, "Oh," because they're looking at the charts of my insides, and they're like, "Oh, it's nice of you to bring your dad." I'm like, "What are you talking about? That's fine." Because I'm like, "No, I'm the old looking guy on the inside."
Oh, X-rays at the VA are always a fun time. They're like, "How much metal is in you?" And I'm like, "Depends on what area you're talking about."
Well, Nick, when I got assigned to the 25th ID, I was kind of disappointed because one of my first picks was the 82nd. But everybody I know who went to an airborne unit, including Rangers, knees, back, all screwed up. And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
good job, Army.
Number 9 is where I shattered my leg, and I have not been right ever since.
Yeah,
Goodness.
People say you weren't right before in there, Nick, but
yeah. My
But I
son,
can tell you,
he just ended up in the 11th Airborne Division up in Alaska, and he's telling me these jump stories. They just did an exercise down in Chile a couple of months ago, and he landed hard. They jumped when it was pitched, zero loom and all. I'm like, boy, you got to go do another job.
Find a leg unit, man.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Leg, mech unit, just move on.
oh, I wish I'd been Mac. I so wish I'd been Mac.
All right, so
I
this
got
is
a chance to be mech when I commissioned when I was I guess technically I'm a Mustang. I'm not a shaved tail Louis, but like my first duty assignment was in Kosovo for a Bradley company. And so I'm like, we're going out to the field. So I show up with my ginormous freaking rucksack because light infantry, that's what we do. You pack it on your back. And all the guys that were been mech their whole career, they're like, "Sir, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm going to the field." They're like, "You can bring more shit." And I'm like, "What do you mean? I can't pack any more in my pack." He's like, "No, we got a track, man. You just throw it out here." And I'm like, "What?" I'm in my room grabbing up shit. I'm like, "Okay, so I want some extra this, extra that, extra socks." That's awesome. I'm gonna have
If I
like,
had gone Nick, maybe I would have stayed past my contract.
oh, dude.
All right, so this is where I'm going to just jump in because you guys are going. But so for the sponsor, I'm going to insert a link to a veterans charity. Although in full disclosure, some of them have come out recently where they had their hand in the cookie jar. So I'm going to do some research, and I'll link to something to your listener in the show notes if you want to donate to some of these veterans charities. We'll try to find some reputable ones. So look for that in the show notes. And then we have these lovely guests who are going to tell you about what they're working on that you could support these veterans and their writing endeavors. So David, you first.
Okay, well, what I've got out is a military sci-fi thing. Well, it's more Sword and Planet space opera, but it's called Ghost Ship Derelict that I wrote with our wonderful co-host J.R. Handley. That's Space Marines, doing Space Marine stuff and getting jacked up. If that's not your speed, I've got a post-apocalyptic addition to the Car Wars universe called 72 Hours of Graceland that is been out a while, and it's all right. I'm working on book 2 of that. It's called Chicago Style. And I just turned in a gas lamp urban fantasy called Quid Pro Quo. So a little bit of everything out there for readers.
Nice. Rick, you get to go next.
Well, I just finished up the last book in the Drop Trooper series, book 16. So that series is completed. So if you want a completed 16-book series to sink your teeth into, check out Drop Trooper. I'm currently working on book 10 of the Taken to the Stars series with J.N. Chaney for Variant Publishing. And that's a fun series. It's about a ROTC student from 1987 who's abducted by an alien robot, frozen in stasis until the modern day, and then thawed out and has to fight space pirates.
Oh man, that's
That's
my
cool.
right there.
All right. Next, we have Mr. Shane Gries.
Yeah, gosh, I can't follow up Rick. Rick's got 76 books out, man. I've got 7.
Hard act to follow.
Yeah, but I didn't spend 30 years in the Army either, Shane.
No, I'm trying to catch up. No, I'm re-releasing my Ashes series, Oasis, Ashes of Empire, Ashes of Armageddon. It's military science fiction. I've got another military science fiction book. It's Space Mercenaries that I'm kind of reworking. I'm going to put a second edition out on. My zombie apocalypse stuff is kind of caught fire a little bit, if you will. It was up for the second book in the series is up for a Dragon Award this year. Didn't win, but maybe next year. But yeah, there's some stuff out there. If you're into the stuff that we all read, you might check it out. And that's about it.
All right. And Evil Ginger has mentioned that he doesn't have anything available for sale right now through his Kickstarters, which is normally how comics are sold. But he's working on something, and we're going to browbeat him into coming back to talk about it when that launches.
Yes.
So
I do have a few individual issues of some of my books, but I don't have anything crowdfunded at the moment.
okay.
We all have issues.
Is there a place where they could buy those?
Contact me on Facebook is probably the easiest way, because right now I have 9 books that I've been a part of. I have Exodus Z #1, which is a zombie book where they fight angels, and there's plenty of inappropriate humor spattered all throughout the book. I have a few issues of that. I have Phantasmagoria that I mentioned earlier, which has a tie-in story between issues 1 and 2 that's in Phantasmagoria. I've started drawing issue 2, just waiting for the writer to get back with me on the rest of the book.
Damn writers.
Yeah. And then I have my 90s book that I'm working on in my free time. And then I have a different zombie book as well called Flesh Eaters, which is looking pretty interesting as well.
Nice. All right. And Reginald Lewis.
Hey, man, y'all have so many books. So I have literally one. Okay. It's called Guardian the Ward from the Guardian Saga. It's a fantasy book. It's multi-page POV, so it tells a story of there's a guy in the he's kind of like in a class, and there's another guy. He's a spy master, and his job is to protect the Empire. And there's also the Empire's like best warriors. Their souls get transferred into these teddy bears, and the bears go out and fight demons and monsters and pirates and all these evil things. So that is the
Sounds cool.
book 1 of the Guardian saga, called The Guardian Award fantasy book.
But it's fantasy, so it's probably really long, right?
No, actually, it's not. It's about 120,000 words, so it's not like one of those 600,000
That's not too bad.
tomes.
Stephen
Yeah,
King
it's not too bad.
Well, 120K is good. That's
That's
right.
a good
Yeah.
range. Congrats.
So, and then I just finished actually the prequel to the book, and that's coming out soon. And then I've got first drafts for like books 2, 3, 4, and 5 that just need to go be edited, looked over, edited, and then sent to an editor. So that's what I'm working on right now.
So it
So
looks
you've
like we have to
written-
have you back on.
You've written 6
Say
books.
again?
We have to. It
I
looks
mean-
like we have to bring you back on.
Yeah, definitely.
You've written all the books. You just got to get them edited.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it.
Well,
That's the hard part.
that's the hard part.
Yeah, getting them written.
Yeah,
is hard. You've
In your
written
defense,
that's very
I
respectable.
didn't have time for all that kind of stuff when I was on active duty. So like, you get a get out of jail free card. You know,
Still,
Uncle Sugar's
it's
for
like
me.
it's so hard because it's like I have no time to do like no time for video games, no time for movies. It's literally just right, but I love doing it. So
So you still chasing Golden Gloves Golden Gloves too?
It's too dark.
I am actually. Yeah, I got a gym here in Washington, so hopefully I'll be taking a fight here soon.
Oh,
So you're a boxer?
I am.
Nice.
His if you knew his Twitter tag, you'd understand. It's Fists of Fury. So which sounds like a pretty badass superhero. Nick, you ought to draw that.
Dude, Fist of
True,
Fury.
for-
There's so many ways I could go about that. None of them I can announce on air.
All of them Air Force.
Nick, he's in the Air Force, not the Navy.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
that's
a
the
valid
Navy
point.
guy had to say
Look,
it.
reaching for the coffee.
So we obviously we've talked about how they, a little bit about the veterans, how they're portrayed in fiction. Do you guys have you noticed any trends or anything when you see how the military itself is handled in fiction?
Yeah, poorly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Chaotic, unorganized.
Cool.
Inaccurate.
All right, you can
Yeah,
elaborate more
very
than one word. Like I'm glad the thesaurus is open.
That's
The
my favorite
thesaurus.
dinosaur. The thesaurus.
Easy for you to say.
The Brachiosaurus.
Bless you.
So would you guys like to elaborate? And clearly, I'm auditioning for Mike Tyson's role in the upcoming film.
No, I mean, when you say fiction, I think what's in the movies is different than what's in literary form, so it's hard to say. I
I've
think
noticed. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was
I
going
was
to say,
saying-
I think that if you go back a few years, there was like we were talking about earlier, a mixture of people who had major problems and then superheroes who were all special forces or something, and the door kickers.
Yeah, I mean, there's so few, films and movies and TV shows that are well done. The critically acclaimed ones, like Deer Hunter or The Hurt Locker, are so fucking unbelievably stupid that guys like us, we cringe watching them. And then we like movies like Full Metal Jacket and Platoon, even though those probably weren't all that realistic either. But then there's some gems out there, like
13 hours.
Black Hawk Down. Those are really well done.
13 hours.
We Were
Yeah.
Soldiers was decent.
Yeah, we were.
Heartbreak
so-
Ridge.
It was decent, except for the fact that it totally
Ridge
fictionalized that
had
battle.
Yeah.
Sorry, John. What you were saying?
Heartbreak Ridge. That was that Clint Eastwood movie, right?
Yeah, Granada is
Yeah,
That
I
was
saw that while I was in the Marines, and I saw discrepancies left, right, and center. It's like, what the fuck's going
like
on with
forced.
this?
Those guys are forced
man.
recon Marines
But
acting like
I
that.
realized after the fact that I didn't know about the whole uniform thing, where for whatever reason they're not allowed to make it 100% accurate.
That's not true, actually.
That's not true. That's
I don't know. That's what I was told at the time by someone that outranked me, so I believe them.
Yeah.
I left it at that.
I got told a lot of
I was
bullshit
on
by
the set
people
of
that
We
were
Were Soldiers, and I put all my pretties on.
But I have a hard time watching the war movies. I can watch the goriest horror movie and it doesn't faze me. But
Terrifying.
I get uncomfortable real quick watching a war movie. So I don't watch a lot of them. It was like when
What did you?
what was it? Pearl Harbor. I was getting out of the Marines not long before that came out. That movie had been out for like 2 years before I watched it, and then I had to sit there and make myself watch it through all the fight
To
scenes.
be fair,
and
I
stuff
think
that
a
were in
lot
there.
of people had trouble watching Pearl Harbor for various reasons, mostly because it sucked.
Well, that too. But I mean,
Not
they
really.
did-
It got me laid on date
when-
night.
when they had the combat scenes and all that, I don't know. I have a hard time watching war movies, but if it's like sci-fi type stuff, it doesn't seem to bother me because I know it's not realistic.
You know what's
I-
funny?
I
It's
don't
funny.
even play the game.
My
I
father,
don't even play those video games.
you know what's funny is my father was he was a nose gunner in a B-24 bomber in World War II, and he was shot down. He was a POW, but his favorite TV show was Hogan's Heroes. He loved that show,
About
I saw
POW.
that when I was a kid.
and he was actually in a
What did you guys
POW
think of-
camp.
Oh,
But
What do you guys think of Generation Kill?
yeah,
Oh, that's
love
a great miniseries.
Yeah,
Love
that's
Black
good.
Hawk
I think that's my favorite.
Probably
That's
one of
my
my favorite
favorite.
movies.
You know,
So-
after I did Afghanistan, you know, they had, what was that movie? The Outpost, and then
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
God, there was another one.
A few of them.
Yeah, you know,
Outpost was really good.
I really had a problem. I had great difficulty watching those, but I could watch Korean War, Vietnam, World War II movies all day long. But the Afghanistan stuff, I felt
Oh, yeah,
so
I
uncomfortable.
won't.
I
Anything
couldn't
that you
watch
watch
that.
is hard to watch.
Yeah, hard to watch, and
The,
I don't know why.
the
Because it's close to home.
Yeah,
yeah,
probably.
the Long Road Home was another one. That actually the events in that mini series that I think it's the History Channel put it out, happened right as I was getting in country for my second tour. So that was a hard one to watch.
Wow.
But in defense of the movie Pearl Harbor, they did have one of the cool one-liners where they're getting ready to do the Doolittle raid, and they ask the pilot, "This is a top secret mission. Do you know what that means?" And his answer was, "Yeah, that's where they give you lots of medals, but they mail them home to your widows."
Yeah.
Pretty much.
That was pretty accurate. So, do you
Oh,
think?
good line though? Great line.
Do you think that the war stories, when they're told in science fiction or fantasy setting, do a better job than the ones where they try to cover events that really happened, or do you think it's a wash?
Not
I
in the
think
movie.
I think the sci-fi stuff and literary, at least they do. Like David Weber's Honor Harrington stuff is great. Like he does a fantastic job of depicting, you know, Navy life in a way that actually is kind of interesting. Whereas, like, having done Navy stuff, you know, in the Persian Gulf, like, yeah, you're in a war zone, but nobody's shooting at us, man. We're fighting an enemy that's, you know, 100, 200 miles away in the dirt.
Yeah, you're firing cannons at that shit.
Yeah, like all I'm doing is hooking up cargo to the bottom of an H-60 and letting it fly it over to the carrier who's dropping bombs on these knuckleheads. Like that's about as dull and boring as it gets. But
Yeah.
you know, somebody's got to do it.
I think it's easier to make it believable in fiction rather than trying to make it accurate all the time.
Yeah,
Well, because you can't write about ground pounders all the time because it gets dull
Yeah.
and convoluted, right? You
Beg to
so-
differ.
I mean, they do make interesting stories, but like I like focusing on like artillery dudes. I like focusing on engineers. You know, the different combat service support or other combat units that are not infantry. You know, I think it adds a little bit more gravitas to it. You know, knowing that it's not always about the infantry. Even though that's what we told us infantry. There's only 2 types of MOS, infantry and infantry support. Not true.
So I got a question. No, and I think that's a great point. Like, we all know that, there's 30 days of boredom for 30 seconds of sheer terror, excitement, adventure.
Yeah, high-speed shit.
Yeah. So when you're writing stories and you're trying to make them interesting, how do you drill down on that? Because even grunts are like mostly hanging out, bullshitting, pulling guard duty, doing nothing fun.
They're shooting in for the next war to start.
Yeah. Or if you're in the Navy, you're on a ship and all you're doing is training 99.9999% of the time. I wrote a series where I tried to cover all these different types of characters so that there was enough action, because I thought that would be more realistic, because the amount of action any service member sees is like minuscule.
Well, you also have to remember, though, Shane, we're talking, if we're writing military science fiction, for example, things might change in the future. Maybe there's fewer and fewer actual people doing more and more stuff.
Sure.
You never know.
Yeah,
but I'll tell you guys, one of the coolest, most action-oriented stories I ever read in a comic book was about a firefighting team on I think it was on a destroyer. It was a Navy firefighter team.
Mm.
So the writing was good, the art was amazing, but like it brought you into the story of like, man, this is dangerous shit, and they're not getting shot at. It's a reaction to combat action that affects the whole ship. But really, they just focused on this firefighting team that was trying to make sure the ship doesn't go down, or burn up. Mm. And that's probably some of the best mil spec fiction that I've read. And and I think it was only like maybe 12 pages long. It was 12 pages of just holy shit. And I'm like, and as a grunt, the guy that's always getting blown up or whatever, I'm just like, yeah, I definitely don't want that job. I don't think I could do it.
I really like the dialogue between, I guess it would be grunts. So if you read Black Company by Glenn Cook, I really like his dialogue in between all of them, because, like you guys are saying, it's not all about just the fighting, but like the dialogue, the way people tease each other and give each other shit. Like, I think that's common across all of the branches and
MOSs.
Yeah, exactly. And that sort of stuff, I think, is entertaining. It's not action, but it could be funny. For me, it brings back a lot of nostalgia where you're sitting in the smoke pit, or you're, like you said, we're waiting for a plane to come back, and everyone's just joking around and trying to pass the time, or just telling stories about what happened, 2-3 years ago or whatever. I find that stuff very entertaining.
Well, and we'll talk about that. Like, I just had a mini reunion with the platoon I went to Iraq with. We converged for a wedding instead of a funeral, which was a first for us. So it was a
good reason to get together.
It was a great reason. And we got together and we did what soldiers do, or what service members do. We get together and we drink heavily. We drank the bar dry.
Yep.
We told stories that we have forgotten about over the last 20 years. We introduced our children who are getting older and want to know more about their parents. And maybe we shared a little bit too much about how badass of a gunner your dad was and how many dudes he smoked overseas, And then the funny parts, the camaraderie. It's like we had when we were in Iraq, we had a thing called the Monday morning hate. So like we are all close quarters living together, things were getting on each other's nerves, leadership styles, how we did things, whatever. So we had the Monday morning hate, where it was just a roast of each other, the whole platoon.
We had that too.
Rank didn't matter. I was an E6 and I was getting roasted by an E4, and part of me wanted to smoke him until he fucking died. But it was funny. He was right. So we had things like that. And those are the things that I think are, if you do it right and you incorporate those in the stories, it grounds the characters and makes them more relatable.
Yeah.
As a reader, it brings you in. It's like, oh my God. Because people outside of our wheelhouse, our profession, look at the military that we are stoic, we are guarded, we are grounded, nothing gets to us, we don't joke around, we have a gallows humor. That's the only thing they really seem to understand, is that we all have a gallows humor. That's because how we understand death. And So when you bring those stories in where we are all, it grounds the audience, and I think it makes the stories more entertaining. And those are the ones I really like doing. And that's what I like about everybody that's in this panel right now, is that you all have something like that in your stories that grounds these characters through these tremendous events and catastrophic events.
Also, what you do in between the action when there's all those days of boredom. I mean, when it comes right down to it, any story that you write that is about characters is about their growth as people.
Yeah.
So that's the time they grow as people, is in between those times when they don't have to think, when they just shoot, when they grow as leaders or friends or whatever.
You're just dealing with tactics at that point. It's the interhuman interaction in between the points of tension that I think makes the story more interesting, how these guys react to these things and how they deal with it and how they cope with it. And I love it that everybody here does it in such a way that doesn't show the service member as a broken person.
The weird or funny, however you want to look at it, thing is, if you put some of the stuff that really happened to us, some of the crazy tales, and you wrote it in fiction, people are like, that's so unbelievable. Like, if any of you guys are familiar with the fat electrician, who's the world's best history teacher, right?
That guy's awesome.
Never a war crime the first time.
It's not a war crime the first time. He tells a story of Quack Bang Out, and basically the idea is, when the infantry's that in his unit that were going door to door said, when you throw in the flashbang, they know to get ready, so it's not as much of a stun factor. So one guy got the bright idea. He literally threw a rubber ducky in, and they were all staring around like, what the hell are we supposed to do now? So when they burst in, boom, iced all the bad guys because they didn't know what to expect. It really He makes a lot of money on merch off of it. If we wrote that in a book, people are gonna be like, well, maybe not, because he's kind of famous now. But like, if you wrote that in a book, people are gonna be like, yeah, right. That wouldn't really. You know what I mean? Like, there's all kinds of stories like that.
Something thrown in a door and you don't know exactly what it is, especially something like a rubber ducky. You're gonna be like, wait, what? And you're based on that experience, you're like, there's something special about this rubber ducky. It's going to explode, whether it's going to be fragmentary or fucking confetti, we don't know.
A transformer.
Something can happen.
So damn Decepticon.
As a platoon leader, I was in Hohenfels, Germany. I was Op 4 and 1-4 infantry, and I had this NCO, and he rolled up on this tactical operations center, this battalion TOC, and so he's like, he by himself, but he had a saw, like this squad automatic weapon, this light machine gun. And he's like, how am I going to take this whole TOC down? So he rolls up on the TOC, pulls out a smoke grenade, rolls that in there and screams, gas, gas, gas. And as everybody in there is trying to mask up, he runs in with the saw.
Oh,
that's brilliant.
That's a psyop right there, Shane.
And part of that is the military trains you to so many repetitions, because muscle memory, because that's how you can do dangerous things in scary situations if you don't have to think, if you just go off of muscle memory. But that can be used against you, as Shane's staff sergeant just showed.
Well, that phrase alone is a Pavlovian response. Gas, gas,
yeah.
gas. Oh, shit.
Yep. Everybody was distracted going for the gas mask, and then mowed down.
Now your miles gear's going off and you got that ringing in your ears.
Yeah, but that's the funny thing is, like, I've had people, because I do my newsletter, I end it every month by giving like a random story about stuff that I did in the Army that's not combat related. And everyone wants to know like what the scariest moment in the war was, right? Because everyone kind of knows what I did. And I told them it was when we were driving down the MSR and they would work us to death. We'd do 10 hours on the road, 4 hours off, 10 hours on the road. So like we lived in exhaustion. Caffeine dip to like the instant Folgers in your lip to get the caffeine, try to stay awake. And the scariest part of the whole war wasn't the firefight. It was when I woke up and I realized my gunner and my driver were asleep too, and we were driving down the interstate.
Whoa.
Nice. Oh my god.
And that's when I realized that you can pencil whip an inspection. So we circle X'd everything. Suddenly just none of our equipment worked in the next base, and we just had to stay there for a week for supplies to get there. Funny how that happens all at once too. It's just shocking.
Yeah, I remember, snipers and rockets and suicide bombers and mortars, but the scariest fucking thing was, we were out on a night movement and the driver of my MRAP admitted that he was night blind, at 2 a.m.
Whoa.
Well, what is the worst
That's a
time
big
for night blind? Because we are in darkness.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
If
when you say be afraid, be very afraid.
if I can just, I wanted to address something because it's come up a few times now about the depiction of veterans as broken. I'm the one thing that pisses me off about movies and TV, definitely, but to some extent, literary depictions of veterans with PTSD is they constantly do this thing where the veterans have like these flashbacks to killing people and how guilty they feel.
No.
And every veteran that I've ever talked to, close friends, family members, who's ever killed anybody in a war, they say they barely remember that. The things that they don't forget, the things that wake them up in the middle of the night are either the friends that they lost or the times they almost died.
Yeah.
Like the shells going off right next, mortar shells going off right next to them, that kind of thing. It ticks me off because it's so cliched. So
Yeah.
it's every single one of them.
And you can tell it's written by people that have never experienced a PTSD moment, whether it's in
Mm-hmm.
combat or anything else in their life.
So
Like JR said, the spicy deja vu. I could care less about the people that I offed over there. I could care less. I don't dream about them. I don't see their faces. None of that shit. It's the dudes that I lost. It's my own physical well-being that was threatened. That makes
So when I got back, because of the amount of action my unit saw, when they put me in a PTSD group, they had to put me with Vietnam veterans because there were a couple of us in that boat, to have someone whose experience was comparable to what we saw.
That's extra
Yeah, and so what I can tell you though, and this came from what I've heard from the veterans that are kind of teaching us how to live with it, is I was actually more upset that I didn't care about the people we offed than the other part, because it was you or them. They were doing bad things. They were not good people, and I do think that helps. I wonder if it's a little bit different for people that experienced wars where it literally was just nation v nation, and the only sin the other guy had was he was born in a different country. I do wonder if that makes it a little different.
Well, my father killed some Germans in airplanes in World War II and never felt bad about it.
Dirty crowds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a guy working for me. He was pretty emotionally torn because they shot up a family in Iraq, and it was they were in a car, and they were the civilians that got shot were in a car, and they were rushing at them, and my colleague, he was manning a traffic control point, a TCP, soldiers, and they were signaling for this car to slow down, and instead of slowing down, it sped up towards them, and they lit it up, and they ended up killing this dude and a kid in the car, and there was 2 other kids in the back seat, and the guy just panicked, right? He didn't know what to. The guy just panicked, and they ended
I had a gunner that did that. Lit up a family in a car with a saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, it broke him down for a while. It took years for him to recover. Like the only thing that is close to that I had to do, and luckily I pulled the wrong grenade out of my pouch. I had a 203 on my rifle. I put a smoke grenade in, thinking that it was DP. It ran the checkpoint. It was coming in. We flashed it with lights. We hit it with the laser. Didn't care. Kept coming. Launched it right into his windshield.
Yeah.
Family of it looked like a damn clown car when everyone came out. Didn't hurt anybody. Just smoked up the car. Everyone came out. There was I want to say there was 10 people in that freaking car.
Sounds like a Cheech and Chong car.
Have you seen the cars? So for those that went to Iraq, do you guys remember those old Nissan trucks that they had? And they had all those fuel bladders and stuff strapped on them with mesh netting, that looked like it was so comically large, surrounding the whole damn car.
They would tip over if a fly landed on it. They were
right.
Yeah, the bongo trucks. I remember those. Those were hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Standard fit, nothing to do.
Or the other famous one was the guy, there's a plumbing company in the U.S. who sold his truck as scrap, and they sent a lot of that stuff overseas because we sell our used cars in America to like third world countries, and it ended up being on one of the Nissan Tacticals that the insurgents were using.
Oh yeah,
it had his plumbing logo on the side. Talk about
Toyota Hilux with like a Dishka on it over here. That's what I want.
Yeah.
Oh, Hilux. Who makes that? Toyota?
Yeah, Toyota.
You
Toyota
can't
Hilux. I want one so bad, and then I want to put a Dishka on the back.
Yeah, that'd be badass.
I mean, nobody would tailgate you.
I got to move. I got to go back to Texas to get one of those, though. I think.
Yeah.
My
I like the Dishka.
So one of the things, if you're writing military stuff in fiction, you kind of want the action because that's the interesting part. So do you prefer when they essentially do the George Lucas and use existing tactics and don't really consider the source, like World War II bombers and fighters in space, or do you want them to consider the actual equipment and terrain in the story? Do you have a preference?
You can do both.
I prefer that they consider the equipment, the technology, the situation. I mean, it kind of bugs me. I mean, I know why some people do it, because readers who also read military history, they like seeing battles that happened in history played out in new places. But for me, I like to consider the effect of the new technology, whatever faster than light drive they're using to get wherever they're going. Does it come out anywhere? Is there like one point you have to come out? Can you just put mines and stuff around that point? It's the kind of thing I like to think about when I'm
spawn camping. You can't do that. Nobody likes spawn camping.
No, I agree with Rick. I've written some space battles, and I'm a grunt, right? And what do I know about space battle? Nothing. But I like to do. I'm inspired by David Weber or the Lost Fleet series, or things like that. I try to look at hard science a little bit, as dumb as I am, because the reader at some point is going to go, okay, well, space, there's no atmosphere and there's no sound and there's inertia and there's all these things. We all went to school, for Christ's sakes. So, you got to make it.
Did
somewhat...
we all pay attention, though, Shane? That's the
there it is.
Paid attention to something.
Good point. But that's my preference.
So
I think the biggest challenge when you're writing space battles is to, before you write the series, craft your technology to make the space battles more interesting.
Yep, sure.
So speaking about Nick, hold on a second. So, but we've talked a lot about it in books because a lot of us here are writing. But we've got the Evil Ginger and Nick who do their storytelling through picture form. So, do you see any trends in the graphic depictions? When we talk graphic, I mean like the visual mediums. And this is for you too, John. Or does it not come up as much?
No, it absolutely.
I was going to add my 2 cents about that because I was thinking of the same thing. Since guys like Nick and I do more visual storytelling, I usually do, because I don't want to risk my security clearance. I'm constantly, what do I do to make this believable, instead of trying to make it historically accurate, I guess. Because I know doing what some of us have done, we have had different versions of NDAs that we're obligated to. So we can't say, oh, we were in Kandahar and we did XYZ and this is the equipment we had and stuff like that. It's like with my one of my books, my 90s one that I was telling you guys about. I started it on my last deployment on my days off when I rarely had one. So I did it as a way to, nothing else, stay out of trouble. But I'm surprised how much of my military experience found its way into that. But I still always come back to how can I say this thing that I'm trying to say and not divulge details that I'm not. Like I've shown Nick some of the fight scenes that I put in my books. How do I make this believable without actually showing, oh, this is how you hyperextend somebody's elbow or whatever.
It's research, or you take a picture. You know, you do your photo
Or
reference,
you
or you look at
do
war films,
experience.
or experience too. Yeah,
That comes down to
if you're worried about classified stuff, just Google it. If you can find it open source, you're good, bro.
There it is.
Well, I
But
know,
that's
but
it.
no, I'd
There it is.
rather not
Yeah.
mess with it.
absolutely.
that gives you a little bit of a moral question. So, for instance, if you're writing portal fantasy and you take someone from the modern world who understands, hey, guns are good, and you send them to a fantasy setting and they want to have guns, there are ways to make your own gunpowder. But obviously, it's open source. Do you write that in there so every Tom, Dick, and Harry picks that up? Okay, this is the recipe to make boom boom sticks. Or do you kind of intentionally leave some of that stuff out to not make it easy for idiots to be?
I deliberately leave stuff
Depends
out.
on the area of the fiction, the world. So, are we writing like hard science fantasy, which is kind of a weird thing? You know, is it an instructional manual for survival written in a fantasy setting? Well, then, yeah, maybe you want to put the ingredients to gunpowder. Maybe leave out a couple of things so you don't end up on a fucking watch list.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
That's why I leave
it's
stuff
not easy
out.
to make gunpowder, even if you give all the ingredients, they aren't all easy to get.
Yeah,
I
it's
will-
not like
I will
going to
have
Home
you-
Depot and making napalm, which all that shit.
Napalm might be another story. Yeah.
So I was actually at editing a scene that I wrote with my aunt, who's an ER nurse. So I'm on the phone with her at the local Starbucks, and she's telling me what happens when you cut a head off and how to make it realistic. And everyone's scooting away from me because I didn't realize I was this loud, part of being hard of hearing. So the next thing I know, I have a police officer from Virginia Beach's finest standing in front of me, like, Mr. Handley, is there going to be a problem here? Is there anything we need to know about? I'm like, no, it's okay. I'm a writer. And I turned it around to show him the manuscript, and we started talking. He's like, yeah, my wife writes books. He wouldn't tell me, so I'm guessing it's the steamy stuff. And he's like, yeah, if you're not on at least one government watch list, you're not doing it right as an author.
Yeah, if you guys heard the Jim Bain story where Bain's bar, they were having this big argument because that's what they used to do back 20 years ago all the time. And somebody felt indignant, so he was like describing how to build like these heat-seeking missile guidance systems, and Jim Bain had to jump on there and was like, for the love of God, man, censor yourself.
Well, have you been following the news? There was all these Air Force guys playing like World of Tanks and stuff, and suddenly, like, to prove how badass they are, they're leaking classified information.
The Discord, yeah.
The Air Force
months ago, maybe a year ago.
Yeah, the Air Force had a couple of them that got caught on their plane stuff. They were like, no, this is not accurate because this plane could do this.
Yeah.
I've got a friend who is an author and about to retire as an Air Force colonel, and I heard him complain about the idiots a little bit when that stuff was happening. It's like more PowerPoint briefings.
We've had to get at least 4 briefings about not disclosing classified information on Discord servers.
Yeah.
In the
Nick
past,
already knows if anything happens to me to delete my search history.
You know you can't print stuff off in a skiff and then bring it home and then put it on Discord, right? Everybody knows it, right?
Anything off the red wire corded computers, just leave it there.
Bad.
Leave the separate net alone. Do not have 9 gigs of porn on there. Iraq, just saying. So you had like 9 gigs.
The skiff stays in the skiff, then you're good, right?
Yeah, the skiff.
So
I got jammed up for
9 gigs was a lot back during the Iraq War.
Skiff door was
for real. 9 gigs.
They were overachievers, Reggie.
Yeah, seriously. Records.
Really bad eyes.
Records.
All right. So one of the things that, like, I made a joke. We made a joke recently in the chat that you can't see, dear listener, is, some of the stuff that you don't talk about is like, you want to know what the soldiers or sailors think, look at the graffiti they put in the porta potty. And that goes all the way back to antiquity. You've got Romans drawing dicks in the porta potties, and, Severus was here or whatever. So those kinds of details that create the ambiance often get left. Is there anything you'd like to see more of in the fiction that doesn't specifically tie to the combat itself?
So I have one about portalets that hasn't been written yet, but needs to.
Okay.
So it was in Korea, and we would go out on these gunneries, and you'd have portalets because you can't be pissing and shitting everywhere. It's a thing. But guys would get lazy in the middle of the night, and they'd have to go to the portalet and piss. So they just start pissing in the dark everywhere. And it's winter in Korea, so it's cold. and you would wake up in the morning and have to take a dump, but there'd be like an inch of piss ice on the toilet seat. These are only experiences you can have in these surveys, I think.
So I'll give you one. When we were in Iraq, they had General Rule 1 Alpha that basically, General Order 1 Alpha that basically said no sex, drugs, and rock and roll, no fun, basically. And so when we were between missions, which wasn't very often, which was in Kuwait, they put us on roving patrol, which we called roving sex patrol, because the idea was you're supposed to catch these people and write them up. So what we did instead is we brought one of those handheld recorders, because you didn't have cell phones that could do all that back then. And we put the NVGs in front of it, and we just filmed them when we caught them. And we're like, hey, I'll delete this if you go away and never make me write this damn report. But if you make me write it, I'm sending video evidence to your wife. And generally, they would leave you alone after that. Dude, that's the kind of stuff you don't see.
That a backlit porta potty, as observed through the night vision goggles, might as well be a see-through device.
Yes.
I had so I was in the deed.
No.
Go ahead, Reggie.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Reggie.
Oh, no, I was in the deed in 2010, and hold on, let me make sure I have this. Let me make sure I have this right. Okay, I was in the deed in 2010, and we stayed in these trailers. And these trailers, depending on what trailer you were at, it would be like a 5 or 6 minute walk from the bathroom. So you had people, right, they would just pretty much pee in bottles, right? So you had the responsible people that would take their pee bottles the next morning and dump them out. However, one day I got approached by my flight chief. He says, hey, you and I are going to go to Airman Snuffy's trailer because there's complaints about a smell. I'm like, oh, okay. So in my head, I'm like, this guy's taking a shower. He's probably not washing his clothes. So
dead hooker under the bunk.
That, right? So then we go get Airman Snuffy. He opens his door, and sure enough, there is corner to corner, and then probably to your knee of piss bottles.
Gross.
Holy
and they're the 1 liters.
Yes, fermenting in
1
the
liter of piss per bottle.
in the desert heat.
Oh,
so
basking in his own juices, literally.
Guys gotta have
I was like,
Basting.
I was like, what are you doing? Like, explain to me what you're thinking here. And he's like, well, I got embarrassed and I didn't want to see anyone to see me take these bottles out and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, we had to sit there and watch them take all the bottles, which is probabh 70 or 80 bottles, I think.
Oh my God.
And fermenting.
Yeah, it was one top 3 worst smells I've ever smelled.
You could have been like that officer in the outpost and had the enlisted men take the bottles for him out of the.
No, he's doing it. He's doing it.
Yeah,
we actually, when we were in Iraq for the second tour, they actually they had some of the TCN drivers, which is basically non-American third country national drivers. They would try to steal the loads. When we were supporting the Marines in Fallujah, taking the stuff to the front line, we actually had one of our drivers drive off and try to steal the ammo and deliver it to the insurgents. So going forward, we had to box our TCNs in. And I'm at the back because, the gun trucks are very maneuverable. And I was about 75 meters from the porta potty. And I'm like, okay, this MRE is just hit. I'm going to go take the Browns off to the Super Bowl. And I get there and I realize there is no toilet paper in there. And I didn't remember my own. So I'm like, no. I'm going to leave and go back to my truck, and I'm going to get the toilet paper and go back and handle things. And I'm about halfway. So I'm about 30 meters away from this porta potty. And right when I get there, a mortar lands on the porta potty. And I would like to think, because in all the movies, they have all these cool one-liners. No, all I could think of was, man, that would have been a shitty way to die.
That's crazy.
I wrote that in one of my first novels, and the publisher was like, nobody is ever going to believe it. I'm like, sir, I've got the incident statement. Official Army record.
My son was over in Syria for a year back in 2018, I want to say. Was it 2018? We were doing stuff over there. And he was taking a shower, and one of the insurgents, ISIS, drove a VBIED into the front gate and blew it up while he was taking a shower. And his first thought was they were being mortared because that had happened before. So he's like, do I run to shelter covered in soap and look naked, or do I just finish my shower and take the chance of being killed? Like I'm gonna finish my shower.
We had that happen when we were doing missions in northern Iraq. Was when it was a little bit contentious there, and they started shelling the base and actually like attacking. And if you're in the gun truck, when they say gun truck's up, they don't care if you're not stationed at that base. They want you to. And I remember running up, and there were a couple people in their boxers, and let's just say we had to have that conversation, Reggie, about hygiene, because the things needed to be washed. And I'm just like, no, this is not okay. So that trope exists. The smelly one, that exists for a reason, because there's always that one.
There is. It's inevitable. It's inevitable.
So are there
There's
any
always
other
one Joe that needs the shower? He's like Pigpen from
yes, and inevitably that will be their nickname or call sign. Is there any other tropes that you think that exist that are actually based on probably reality with the character archetypes?
There's always that one guy that has always craved combat, and then when it happens, he's not that guy.
Chicken shit.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I've been training for this all my life. Private Blackburn from Black Hawk Down. He's the first one taken out. There's always that guy.
Well,
I remember
there's a trope out there about the basic training thing, and I think maybe that's been done a lot. I don't know what you guys think.
What specifically do you mean? Just showing the training, or?
Well, I mean, you do Starship Troopers, for example. He was kind of, showing how they did the training, but then it kind of got copied a lot over the years. Because we're talking about tropes, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But the audiences sometimes expect to see it. Yeah. I mean, one of my first series was about a Marine Force Recon guy, and I skipped over basic training or boot camp, basically because I'd read it so many times and was tired of reading it.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of reviews talk about he skipped over all the basic training.
Well, and also basic training is one of those really easy ways to show the reader early on that these dudes are competent, right? Like you can build up the competence of your characters very early on, or not.
Yeah, you can show it one way or the other. I think that's
and then it's Chekhov's gun or Chekhov's incompetent leader. You can set things up in basic training and then pay that off later on.
Or you can make training like Stripes. What kind of training? Army training, sir.
But you got to be super intentional about that stuff and find a way to do it that hasn't, you're not going to find a brand new way to do it, but if you can find a way to shine to write it from a slightly different angle, so that it's not the same thing that we've read.
The trope I hate about using basic training or evolutions of training is the guy that's naturally gifted, like he was fucking Genghis Khan reincarnated and shit. Like he just excels at every fucking evolution.
That's the one the DIs pick on.
Dude, the Gary Stew. They call him the Gary Stew.
Yeah, Gary Stew.
Yes. That's great. Have you guys seen the movie Gardens of Stone?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, it came out in the 80s. It's about these guys in the 3rd Infantry. They're at Arlington. They're the guard during the Vietnam War. But there's a character in there. He's like this gold brick. He can't ever get anything right. He's just a total fuck up. He can't shine his shoes right. The sergeant major and the first sergeant are always in his shit. The platoon sergeant's up his ass. Squad leaders. Anyway, the guy ends up going to Vietnam and getting the Medal of Honor. And then he comes at the end of the movie and he comes back and they all have to salute him. Right. So, and I think
calm down there, Audie Murphy.
Yeah, so that's an interesting idea to explore. I think if you do the training piece and the guy's a total turd, like a total soup sandwich, and then he ends up turning into this war hero, war machine, whatever, or maybe he's one of those guys, we all know him, who's really good in the field, but he's a fucking disaster in garrison.
Absolutely.
Constantly bailing him out of jail, bouncing checks, You know,
marrying strippers,
fourth divorce.
Marrying strippers. That's a trope that needs to be in more books. Is marrying strippers.
Yeah. You know what? Most male sci-fi needs to end with them having to clear supply.
Yeah. You gotta love the shit's gotta be cleaner than how you got it
right now.
Hell, the bulk of my detachment in 06, man, we were on a supply ship, and those dudes underway, rock stars, man. We kept aircraft up. You could count on them to get stuff done. Didn't matter time of day. Didn't matter how crazy shit got. They were rock stars. As soon as we hit a port, total degenerates, every last one of them.
Bedlam. Those are the guys you want to go to war with, though. General said, he's like, you don't want an army that can. You don't want a unit that can pass inspection. You want an army that can fight.
Yeah, the best mechanics. The best mechanics are the alcoholics. The alcoholics and the wild people are always the best mechanics.
You know, when we got hooch when we were overseas unofficially, of course, and the statute of limitations has expired, so I'm good. It was the mechanics that were brewing that homebrew stuff.
100%. Look,
I
my time in maintenance was some of the most fun times I've had in my entire life. So,
those boys can drink.
Yes, they're all alcoholics, and they're functioning alcoholics.
One of the cool things about I like to see, and you don't see enough of it, is mechanics getting creative in the field in various scenarios. Like, you know, because one of the things, for instance, I read a lot of space opera that has naval side of things, and everything is so clean and sterile. But anybody that's been in the field, be it a Navy ship, because I've done some tours on them, or a Army or whatever, it's always dirty. Shit gets dirty, grease gets everywhere. You know. Everything's too clean. I want to see more like mechanics getting creative. Like we actually had one where the air brakes locked up, and we were supposed to tow it in place or blow it in place because we couldn't just leave it sitting. And the mechanic's like, screw this. He gets underneath, pulls the pistol that he had as the mechanic, puts a round through the air hold tank for the brakes. Like, we can tow it now. Didn't even think that he was a thing, right? Like, I could just as easily blow him or shoot myself. Nope, didn't even think. Just, I got a creative idea. Why don't I try this crazy thing? And he did, and it happened to work, but it could have gone sideways.
One of my
That's the kind of thing you need more of.
Sci-fi moments is in Forbidden Planet. Is it Forbidden Planet?
Yeah, it's Forbidden Planet with the booze, with the robot. Yeah.
Mechanic finds an autonomous AI that can replicate shit, and he could create anything he wanted, and he created 60 gallons of booze.
In one pint bottles. In one pint bottle.
40 barrels of Kentucky bourbon. You know, so like that trope is awesome, and I think that's something we've lost in storytelling today, is that you have that in just smart mechanics. Like, I got a guy that can create anything. What do I want most? I want 40 gallons of booze. In various size bottles, and then it happens. It's like, so that was the most grunt ass shit I've ever seen in my life.
100%.
You know, just but it was a mechanic, and I'm like, yeah, I definitely want that dude working on my mechs.
And every outfit's got an operator, right? Like, everybody's got that dude that's working the angles. That's always, you know, like, you need something. He's the guy. Like,
Scrounger.
Yeah, the scrounger. So
I know a guy.
Shane's trying to say something. Shane is trying to say something, guys.
Yeah.
He's the guy that knows the guy that robbed the guy that shot a guy.
As Dave was talking about, like, I had one on my team in Afghanistan. This guy was amazing. His name was Kenny. I'm not going to say his last name. But Kenny, I'm like, Kenny, I would really like some brand new MRAPs, a trailer, and a sniper rifle. And he's like, I got you, sir. And that shit would just appear. And like, I thought only these guys existed in movies.
No,
but
stereotypes are there for a reason.
And Kenny was no good on a patrol. Kenny didn't want to go on a patrol. Kenny was not a brave soldier. But Kenny could find some shit. And Kenny was more than worth his weight in gold. Kenny was worth his weight in gold and then some. And
Kenny,
I love that.
Like, if you're losing BII on a Humvee, Kenny's your dude. He's gonna find it.
Right.
Every unit has a Kenny. I mean, they're all named different shit, but every unit has a Kenny.
Oh God.
It's like, hey, we're missing BII on 3 vehicles. Don't worry, sir, I got you. Do I want to know? You don't want to know.
the other trope that I like that everyone would say is unrealistic now because they don't officially do it is the, go to war or go to jail. But even now, like I watched a certain family member of mine, and I won't say names, so we'll just leave it there, got a reckless driving ticket. And he's like, but I'm trying to enlist in the military. I can't now. And the judge is basically like, bring me the enlistment form and this goes away. It gets lost in the sauce. So that stuff still happens.
It's not
when I
used to be.
When I joined, I was on I went to MEPS with 2 people like that. They were like, yeah, the judge told me either join the military or go to jail. I was like, oh,
it still happens.
Those tended to be the coolest guys to hang out with.
Yes, they were.
There's a cadence.
Got a letter in the mail.
Go in the army or go to jail.
Yeah, that's some of that stuff, though. I think some of them, because of all the post-Vietnam, like insult the soldiers as broken or psychopaths, like with Platoon, I think people get a little sensitive the other direction, like, oh, you didn't make the soldiers look like angels. And I'm like, I mean, in a combat zone, there really are no angels. Like, they ask us to do dark and dirty things because we're not angels.
Soldiers are the angels with dirty wings, man. Like, we get in the muck and we do what we got to do to survive and protect our own, our platoon mates, our squad mates, teammates. So, like, we're not traditionally angels. We're not all purity and grace. Most of us like spending our off time at Jaguars, putting, George Washington into like stripper G strings and shit.
Hey, we were putting that girl through college, okay?
Yeah,
I support single mothers. I'm just saying that.
Hey, remember VD Drive?
Oh yeah, in Columbus, VD Drive. It's all cleaned up now. There's no more strip club. Like Petticoat Junction is gone.
You're killing me.
Yeah.
One of the things that we haven't talked about, because we've talked a little bit about the combat, is I was always surprised at how many artistic people you found in military units. You've always got someone that can sing or play the guitar or draw something. I mean, some of the best music I've heard came out of, like, there was one Marine, Tyler J. Satfield, who wrote the EAS song, which was famous. It was so famous that the Marine commandant didn't like that he made that song. We're like, hey, stop playing that. I mean, like, it made it that hall for this Lance Corporal.
That wedding I went to a month ago, McKinney, he brought a guitar on deployment. And he made these like he's saying cadences, but he put like his artistic guitar style shit to it. And it was like, some of that shit would bring you to tears. It actually made you think, like, man, some of these songs are effed up and really emotionally driving, And we would listen. We'd go up to the rooftop in Baghdad.
Did he make a love song out of Up Jumped a Ranger from a Coconut Grove?
He did. I woke up with a sore asshole. It was very endearing. We got married.
I mean, look, it doesn't count when you're underway, all right?
That could have just been the MRE, Nick.
It's not gay when you're underway. Luckily, he found a beautiful woman, finally.
You know, speaking of
we would get into
the deployment stuff, is how the ugliest chicks would suddenly, and I'm sure it's happened, well, maybe not so much to the guys, but like the ugliest chick suddenly is the most attractive, and everyone's like,
the desert foxes, the desert queens.
Yeah.
The beer goggles or deployment goggles, like nobody puts that kind of stuff in either.
Yeah, the GWAT 10s. It's like, you're a 5 back
home, but over
terrible. Here, GWAT 10.
I had to convince one of my coworkers.
That's kind of hard to put in. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I grabbed him by the shoulders and I looked at him. I was like, dude, because I went back to the D in 2020 when COVID hit, so we didn't know when we were going home. So we were supposed to be there for like, I think 45 days, and we ended up staying there 5 months.
Damn.
So the end of month 4, one of my coworkers had bad beer goggles for this hideous creature. I remember grabbing by the shoulders, sitting him down.
Because I almost felt
no, she didn't work out. I don't know where she worked, but I was like, dude, do you understand what's happening here? And he was like, she is hideous. He's like, no, man. You just don't see it. Like, nobody sees it. Nobody sees it.
But in science fiction, that might turn into alien girls,
Yeah, that's a good one.
Did you see
different folks?
The joke about, the scientists released that the alien women aren't going to be breedable, and you got the top Marine comment, not with that attitude.
There's someone that will do it. There's someone everywhere.
All right. Well, we went a little bit long. I'm still having fun. We could keep doing this. So I think we might have a revisit of this panel in a couple months where we come up with more cool veteran topics. But I do know that some of the panelists are up at the crack of dawn and they do need to sleep because we're not as young as we once were. So as we bring this to a close, I'm going to give everyone a chance to tell me, one, how they can find you, and two, what you're working on now. So we start with you, Dave. What are you working on now and how can they find you?
So what I'm working on now is book 2 of my Car Wars series, Chicago Style. And you can find me at davidwhensley.com, or you can find me on Amazon at Dave Hensley.
Okay. Rick, you're working on book 127, but what's it going to be called?
Actually, I just finished book 9 of Taken to the Stars, and right now I am writing 3 different outlines for 3 different books that I have to write in the next 3 months, which Taken to the Stars 10, and the beginning of 2 new series, one for Variant, one for Athon. One for Variant's going to be called The Accidental Astronaut, and one for Athon, and that's kind of space opera or lighthearted, and one for Athon that's going to be called Archangel, which is kind of gritty military sci-fi.
Okay. Next, we got Shane. What are you working on now, and then how can they find you?
So right now I'm working on a space mercenary book. It's tentatively called The Death Dealers, Guns for Hire. I like it so far, but I'm biased.
It's cheerful.
Cheerful, of course. But you can find me on Amazon, and I'm on AOL. I got a group called Shane's Rally Point. You can stop by, and we mostly just bullshit and hang out. But it's great.
And I will, full disclosure, that is where some of the Blasters and Blades Twitter page where we share all the memes, I do steal shamelessly from Shane.
As well you should.
All right, Reggie, what are you working on now, and where can listeners and viewers find you?
So I just finished my novella. It'll be out soon, but what I'm working on right now is book 3 of the Guardian saga, but it'll be out probably sometime next year. You can find me on X or Twitter at Fists of Fiction, and yeah, that's where you can find me.
All right, and
You have to say where to find me.
did you say, Rick?
I've just checked. Look for Rick Partlow on Amazon.com. I'm the only one.
Are we sure?
I am sure.
All right, and John Epple, otherwise known as the Evil Ginger. Although, are you still a ginger when it goes gray? What's the
because they're still red up here, and
okay.
I've got red in my head too.
He's a Granger.
It's more gray.
So where can listeners find you, and what comic are you working on at the moment? Is it that 90s one?
Yes, I've decided it's a Image Comics, like early 90s Image Comic style Suicide Squad.
Cool.
So, pretty much. So I decided to call the book Suicide Run because that's what the team always goes on. You don't know who's going to die, what's going to happen, what kind of effed up hilarity is going to ensue. So I figured Suicide Run is pay homage to some of the influence and still avoid plagiarism.
The artwork is pretty amazing.
Plagiarism?
He shows me every week.
Yeah.
I should get an editor credit on that book.
I'll think about it.
Show me the artwork.
I'll think
So
about it.
is this going to be a colored one, or are you going to do grayscale?
Eventually, but right now, I filled all the large areas in ink. Right now, I'm rendering the details.
Okay.
I just finished page 13 right before I came on tonight. So up to 13, all the artwork's done. I just got to my first 2 double-page spread, so that's going to take me probably a couple days because I get it done on like lunch breaks and after work and stuff like that. But my writer for X to Z did tell me that I believe in like 3 days or so, the campaign is going to go, I think, get launched for issue 2. So that's coming soon. And then I'm working on Flesh Eaters, the book I mentioned earlier. Right now, we're going to have the whole book drawn and inked, I believe, before they launch. So that date is to be determined. And before I forget, go Dodgers.
Los Dodgers win.
All right. And this is the part, dear listener, where I remind you to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right books or the right comics. It matters. We will, if you can't review them on the sites, because I don't know if all the comic purchase sites allow you to review them, start your own website and review stuff there. Go on Facebook, YouTube, all the places. They will love you forever. Review wherever you buy the product. It really does make a difference. And as far as how you can find us on our link tree at linktr.ee, linktree/Blasters and Blades podcast. Again, linktree/Blasters and Blades podcast, where we link to all the things, the BitChutes, the Rumbles, the YouTubes, the TikToks, the Twitters. We have our Blasters and Blades Facebook group and Facebook page. We have our email, Blasters and Blades podcast at gmail.com. Again, Blasters and Blades podcast at gmail.com for professional purposes only. That means you, Carl, in the back, save all the shenanigans for Madam Stabby Stab over there on the Instagram, Twitters, and the emails, all conveniently linked in our link tree. See, that's what it's for, linking in the link tree. We're smart like that. We also link to our website over there on Spotify. Bunch of gobbledygook. Don't blame us, blame them. But if you click that link for as little as 99 cents a month, you can help keep the lights on. I saw that, Nick. Every penny does help, and these episodes are not free to produce. So we do appreciate it. Or you can support the show more directly at buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that is for the podcast. And I promise I will keep Nick duly caffeinated. He will be loaded in Rips and instant Folgers coffee to go straight in his gums. It'll be like it's 2005 all over again, people. Although I don't think we had Rippets, and it was what, Red Bull?
Sounds about right.
It started with Red Bull, ended up with Rippets, and
then the Monsters, and and as usual, if you want to support the show, you can also buy some of your own caffeinated products over there at Coffee Brand Coffee. Link is in the show notes. Podcast Grunts get you 10% off. We get a little bit of kickback. You get a 10% discount. You shop local. It's a win-win. That's actually roasted in America. It is not a drop shipping operation. So you are supporting a locally owned business, which is awesome. And if you are not in the continental United States, in the United States, because they will deliver to Hawaii and Alaska. But if you're not in the U.S. and you want some coffee, shop local, people. It really does matter. And with that, I appreciate everyone coming on. Evil Ginger, we're going to have you back about that Kickstarter because that sounds like a lot of fun. And we do like being the place people go for those Kickstarters.
I'll get with my writer and verify the launch date.
Outstanding. And we will make that a bonus episode just to fit you in the calendar regardless. And we appreciate all of you for coming on. It was a lot of fun. We definitely have to come up with some more panel topics on veterans and fiction. I think that's an important thing to keep pushing forward, even when it's not Veterans Day. So if you're listening, happy Veterans Day. If you're not in the U.S., happy Remembrance Day or Solemn Remembrance Day, whatever you want. We're here for you, people. And with that, thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-host, I am J.R. Hanley, and this was the Blasters and Blades podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. And with that, we are out. Wait for it. Stop the cussing.